Hi, my name is Jack Abrey and I'm an iwill ambassador. I got involved in the iwill campaign, which is all about making social action a part of life for as many young people in the UK as possible. And I became an iwill ambassador through my work with the Scouts and Bloodwise, the UK's leading blood cancer charity. So today we're here to talk a little bit about iwill campaign and iwill week. So your party, the Labour Party, have supported the campaign since its inception, since its launch, since it was created. So why is that so important to you, and what is personally important to you about the campaign?
Well, community works when people do things together. It's not all about statutory services, it's also about how people interact with each other, how they volunteer, what they do, and how they build a community. And I'm very aware of that. I represent an inner city constituency where there's a huge population transfer. The area I live in, there's 30% of the people move in and out every year, so it's not stable in that sense. And when I was a councillor in Haringey in the 1970s and 80s, I was chair of community development, and I saw the value of community centres as a place where people could come together and do something for their community. So that principle of getting people to support, and the message I give to the secondary schools I go to, and I go to a lot of secondary schools, usually for the end of year assemblies, I say, look, be great, fulfil your dreams and your ambitions, but put something back into the community. And that way you get a much stronger sense of cohesion, and we get a better society that way, and you get lower crime.
Definitely. And what do you think about the power of young people to change the world? Like, for me, it's come along so much in the last sort of decade. Like, young people have really come to the forefront of making change and being up there and having their voices heard. And like, what do you think about that? Do you really...
Absolutely huge. It is improving and developing, and I think the political establishment has for too long ignored young people on the basis that young people didn't used to vote, seen as uninterested and uninvolved, and only interested in social media, celebrity and personal possessions. It's absolutely not the case. It's absolutely not true. It was a failure of political systems to engage with young people and listen to anything that they ever said. And I think that has changed a lot. It's changed because of movements across Europe. It's changed particularly because of movements across the United States.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've done such amazing work in inspiring young people to go out there and use their voice and vote. I mean, I was walking down the street the other day and saw the Jeremy Corbyn annual. So I think you've done like a great job in getting young people to use their voice and really drive that movement. And I think the power of young people to change the world is really coming to the forefront, and the media are starting to pick it up now. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but I think it's really making some progress.
It's about listening to young people. And the last election did change things quite a lot. The 2015 participation of young people in the election was below 50%. This last time, 2017, it went up a lot, but it's still lower than the national average. There's still quite a long way to go. But I always say to people, democracy isn't about just elections. It's about right to free speech, the right to inform, the right to know, the right to be active. And I think that young people have been so effective and so powerful in opposing racism and xenophobia in our society, which gives me such fantastic hope for the future.
Definitely, and I think it's testament that over 40% of young people are already involved in meaningful social action, so whether that's campaigns or going out and doing some other form of social action. And I think that it's just so powerful to see how many young people are going out and doing that. And I think my question would be, what social action did you do when you were younger, and sort of how did that impact you in your life?
When I was at school, I was involved in fundraising campaigns for War on Want, Worldwide Fund for Nature. And then as an adult, I've done a lot with, in the past, with Woodcraft Folk, and as a councillor with a vast number of voluntary organisations. And I also still ensure I'm involved with a lot of local activities. So I'm a trustee of 4 local community centres, and I do give them the time they need and go there, because it's a way of interacting with people that are doing a great deal.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We've got one community centre where we've got English as a second language for a variety of people from different countries. We've got special Arabic classes, and we've got a pensioners club in the next room, and then we've got a share of the young people doing computers with older people learning how to use a computer for the first time.
Bridging the generational gap.
Bridging a generational gap and an ethnic gap as well,
Yeah,
which is so that makes for that sort of strength and cohesion, and then those communities can achieve fantastic things together.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned like Scouts there, and uniformed youth groups are doing some really great work, but there's such long waiting lists. I think something like over 180,000 young people are still on a waiting list. Like, what do you think politicians and the Labour Party could do?
Well, there shouldn't be a waiting list to get involved in organisations that want to do voluntary work in the community. And I do think that Citizens UK and people being involved in voluntary action is important on that. And I met quite randomly at Burnham-on-Sea this summer, a whole group of young people who'd come from Bristol for the day to go and visit older people and take them out.
Oh, wow.
And so they got off this bus and they saw me and they're ever so excited about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they came over and just chatted to me about what they were doing and what they learnt from older people. And I thought, this is so good for them because they learnt to respect older people, but also for the older people to understand that young people are not a threat. Yeah. Because there are older people who just feel nervous about being surrounded by young people. That's nonsense, but they do. I mean, some of the schools that I come across, fantastic, where they have open events, open days, and they go out and do things like that. And again, in my borough, we've got an organisation called Help on Your Doorstep, which goes around and knocks on every door and says, can we help? Do you need anything? Can we help you access benefits, access housing, whatever it happens to be? And that reduces the level of isolation.
Definitely. I think what you're talking about is like, that to me is like the double benefit of social action. So it's doing good for others and doing good for the community, but also like developing yourself and that personal development. Yeah. And I think that's really important for social action, to be able to do something that you do something and you give back to the community, but also you're developing at the same time. I think that's really important.
Best message I got was last Christmas, a crisis centre I was at. I went to thank all these volunteers because they were great. They'd done fantastic work. They'd given up Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and so on to help people. And they said, it's ridiculous. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, we've got far more out of this. And you know what they said? It's the best Christmas I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's
because
just,
they were
just
doing
shows
something
what social
good.
action's all about, It's about giving something back and getting something out of it in return, but it is about changing the world, really.
And those that are prepared to go a bit further. I went to see the refugee camps in Calais a couple of years ago. A lot of young people just travelled there with food, with clothing, with support, because they saw fellow human beings suffering.
I had a friend that actually went out there and went there and helped out, and it is so powerful. Just seeing the experience that he had and talking about that was really moving.
But you know what the best thing was? A year later, I'm in Yorkshire, waiting to do a rally, and they said there's two people waiting for you. They've been waiting for a long time to see you. I said, didn't know who I was going to see. No, you come and see them. Two young men that I'd met in the camp in Calais.
Wow.
Had got their residence sorted out and they were fine.
Wow.
And they're here, and they then said, I said, what are you doing? They said, well, we're waiting to go to college and we're volunteering to help in the community.
That's brilliant. And that just shows like everyone's a part of the UK and of society, and everyone comes back.
They said, people helped us, we'll help them.
Yeah. And that's just, that is like that habit of service, like when people do it and you just get into it and you just keep giving back. And whether that's happened to you or you've been involved with an organisation, it's about that giving back. So
never underestimate the kindness of strangers.
Exactly, definitely. And I think on that, like iwill Week is obviously in UK Parliament Week. So what do you think that politicians and what do you think young people could do to really get their voices heard and elevate those voices? Because there's so many messages and campaigns out there.
Youth parliaments are important, as are school councils. I think school councils, because that gives school children at primary school and older students a chance to have their say and also have some influence over the school is run. I meet schools and colleges all over the country, and older people often just don't understand the fear young people have of knife crime and the concerns about that, or the concerns about violence. A lot of violence is youth on youth, let's be honest about it. And Youth Parliament gives that voice there. And I'm looking forward to the debate later on today after we've finished this interview about knife crime.
Yeah, I think it's such a pressing issue, and I think young people, there's a lot of people that want to speak about it. And if you could send like one message to people about how they would go out and start using their voice to do that more if they weren't confident, what would that be? Say
to somebody that you know is carrying a knife, think about it. You're more likely to be injured by the knife you're carrying than anything else. It's going to do you harm.
So you think
and it won't give you any protection.
A lot of that like local, like word of mouth, just talking to other people as opposed
word of
to
mouth and talking about it, and using an intelligent community approach to it kind of helps. And if you get a critical mass of young people doing stuff together, it does help to bring others in. But it's also something about our schools. Some of our schools are over-competitive, over-obsessed with league tables, over-obsessed with individual achievement. It's the collective group of students we've got to be helping. The school has got to be there for all students.
Yeah.
We don't leave anybody behind.
Yeah, it's about focusing on everyone and making sure that everyone's having...
Absolutely.
And everyone is on a different journey, and everyone has their own journey that they're going on, so
we're all
how to do that.
We're all different, and that's the joy of our lives.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cool. That was brilliant.
Thank
Sorry,
you
I'm like, probably a bit gross, but thank you. That was really good.
Okay.